Hello, everyone. Galen here with another episode of Thriving in Your 60s. We're going to talk about some real estate here. And just a quick recap on the last one we did that was insurance. And you got to remember, coming up next month is going to be whenever the renewal for that. So be sure to double check that one on episode one for any insurance that comes up. All right, the topics today that we're going to cover with real estate, the common household needs for seniors, downsizing, when to downsize, questions to ask the real estate agent, and mistakes to avoid. And this is really going to be more towards scams that are out there. Now, today joining me is
Andres Vargas. I'm a real estate advisor, and I help seniors in the space with their transitions, whether downsizing, upgrading, or whatever their life plans bring them.
Got it. Well, thank you for the introduction and thank you for being here. And don't forget to subscribe to this for more. So let's just kind of dive right in there. So, like some common needs for the seniors. Do you want to talk about safety first?
Yeah, let's talk about a little bit of the
Okay.
safety. Obviously, a lot of things to consider as you get older, right?
Yeah.
Different things in the home, not just components of the home, but I would say neighborhood and access to healthcare and all that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah. Because location is definitely key. You don't want to be in a place that that could be tripping hazards or anything else, right?
Tripping hazards. Obviously, if you have step downs in the house or you have a lot of stairs in the house, that's sometimes going to be a no go as you get older.
Right.
But even I think people overlook location, proximity to things that they like to do. Because what if at a certain point driving becomes a challenge, or you
Right.
lose that ability? If you're kind of out in the middle of nowhere, now you need to rely on somebody to come and get you to bring you places. And so,
Yeah. Because a lot of those features they have in the city, they weren't really have in rural areas.
yeah,
So
obviously we have some amenities or some resources in Phoenix like Dial a Ride or things like that, but
correct.
sometimes it can take a long time for them to come get you, or
Right. Or you're out of the service area. You never know.
that's right, yeah.
Yeah.
So
Okay. Yeah. So what about maintenance? If they have like maybe like a condo, like they downsize from the big
yeah,
one, because
so
empty nesters.
that's a big consideration to think about. Is a lot of people are used to having maybe a single family home for most of their life. Maybe they raised a family in their single family home, and maybe they still like the idea of having a single family home.
Right.
And so there's pros and cons to both. You have the condo, which allows you to have less maintenance. You don't have to worry about the groundskeeping or having a yard, but you maybe have access to amenities like a pool or common areas outdoors.
Right.
But you have to pay for that, right? So it's a trade-off. You have to pay
Oh,
for the HOA fees, and those
well, nothing's
some
free.
nothing's free. Sometimes those HOA fees start low, and then little by little, 5, 10, 15 years down the road, they creep up.
Yeah, it's just like
And
interest.
right, and so can you kind of afford to do that? Obviously there's other communities that are gated, 55 and up communities that
Hmm.
offer single family homes. But I would suppose that there's some challenges that come with that as well.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think it's always about trying to future cast what you want your lifestyle to be like and what you can foresee yourself wanting to do as far as maintenance or being able to do.
Hmm.
Because sometimes the home can fall apart if you're not able to keep up with that maintenance.
Yeah, which is true. And I mean, even adding to the home, right? Like for
Mm-hmm.
extra safety things, maybe handrails and
Mm-hmm.
ramps. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
that's an option, but it is costly at the same time.
Yeah, the other thing would be, if your home, let's say for some reason somebody in the home needs to be in a wheelchair or even a walker.
Right.
A lot of homes were built with smaller door frames, smaller hallways, and so now you're looking at a cost of either having to completely renovate,
Yeah.
widen those doorways, which can get pretty expensive, or now you have to completely move out of the home and get a different home.
Right.
And both of those are a big hassle and a lot of cost. So sort
Right.
of thinking of that ahead of time, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely planning for your future. So,
Yeah,
well, I mean, speaking of that too, I mean, we can go right into downsizing, right?
sure.
So, do you have any idea of like how, like when should we know to downsize?
I think if you're getting to the point where a lot of people will say, "Hey, maybe the kids are been out of the house, and we don't even use these extra rooms anymore."
Right.
Now it's kind of a hassle to keep these rooms up. We don't really know what to do with them. People rarely come and visit. Well, they'll visit, but maybe they won't stay with us.
Mm.
The yard is getting a little bit hard to manage. Maybe you're having to pay a lot of money to have somebody come and keep, landscaping, and
Right.
maybe there's some deferred maintenance starting to pile up on the house a little bit, to where you've got to make a decision of, do I pay for all of these things to be fixed? Put a new roof, new AC, water heater, maybe renovate the home a little bit, or do we make a decision to kind of consolidate, get rid of some of our extra stuff that's in the house, and
Hmm.
maybe find something that's a little bit easier to manage. So all of those are big things to keep in mind. I can say from personal experience, like with my parents. So my dad always wanted to do all of the maintenance
Yep.
himself. He didn't want to hire anybody, and so at a certain point, it became a little bit too much for him. He got a little bit stubborn in his old age, and he thought he could still get up on the roof and redo the roof.
Oh boy.
Well, so for about 10 years, it kind of needed a roof, and it never got one. And so by the time it was, it got to a point where really the whole thing needed to be rebuilt. The whole house was in bad shape. So,
Yeah, because over time it just got
right.
to, more and more besides the roof.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. Well, that's got to be hard for some of these seniors though, like on an emotional level, because
Hmm.
one, that's their home, and
Hmm.
I don't know about you, but I would love to live in my home until I go.
Sure.
So I don't know if you have anything on that, but
Actually, I have so going back to the story of my dad, and so the home that I grew up in, my childhood home, that's the one that I'm talking about, and
oh,
they couldn't keep up with it at the end. My dad unfortunately passed away,
sorry to hear.
and then that my mom couldn't. She was in a position where she definitely couldn't keep the house up, and it was
Right.
kind of deteriorating. So luckily, what we were able to do is my wife and I were able to come in, purchase the house, redo the whole house. We
Oh,
basically tore the house down and rebuilt it. And now there's a little mother-in-law suite for my mom to live in, and then there's the main house that we have. So that's an option for some people. It's not an option for everybody, but
right.
that's something that I think people can talk to their kids about, or whoever, and say, hey, what, because there's not just sentimental value for you, as it's been your home for all these years, but maybe there's a sentimental value for the kids, right?
Yeah.
And so maybe one of them wants to come in and purchase the house and live in it themselves, while you go get something that's a little bit smaller and more manageable, or do what we did, have a little mother-in-law suite, or a casita. More and
Hmm.
more houses in Phoenix these days are allowing casitas, and more than one family to live on the property, and that's been a response to just housing challenges. Instead of having to drive out to 40, 50 miles away to
Hmm.
be able to afford a house, maybe we allow people to have multifamily living in one parcel. So
Yeah, that's awesome.
yeah.
And sorry about to hear about your father, but it
Hey,
sounds like you were right there to step in and help out
yeah,
during that difficult time.
thankfully so, and wanted to make sure that mom was still taken care of after my dad was no longer with us. But yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. So you definitely have an emotional point to this, and
Yeah.
definitely have good resources at hand. It's not
Hmm.
just, let's just sell the home and move on,
Hmm.
especially if it is important for the family to keep. So
That's
thank
right.
you for sharing that. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
So obviously that brings us to you as the real estate agent.
Sure.
Now, what kind of questions should seniors be asking you? The obvious one is going to be like, "Hey, are rates going down?" But
Yeah.
you're tired of hearing that one, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, thankfully a lot of seniors hopefully are sitting on some equity in their home. So they have a lot of options when it comes to how they purchase the next home. Maybe they can sell the current home and buy the next one basically, free and clear, if
Hmm.
they're in a good position. Maybe they have a smaller mortgage because they could put a whole heck of a lot down on that next house with the equity that they do have in their home. There's also options for people who maybe don't have as much equity. Let's say for some reason they've refinanced to
Hmm.
pay for life, or renovations or things like that. There's certainly a lot of options there, but I think the big things to ask a real estate agent, we can't predict rates. Obviously, we can kind of try to forecast. But like
Yeah.
the other day, the Fed cut the rate, and everybody thought that was going to drop the rates even further than they had been, and actually it increased the rates, because it's not actually all tied to just what the Fed is doing, right? So
Right.
um, you can't ever predict it. We are seeing within the next, say, 6 months, there's a projection. I want to say projection, not a guarantee, that
Right.
the market's going to pick up again as far as buying activity. So
Hmm.
that might be a good thing for somebody who owns their home and maybe wants to downsize, because
Yeah.
now there's not going to be as much uncertainty of, are we going to sell this house?
Right.
But as far as buying the next house, you definitely want to go back to what we were saying before. Is this a place that we can age in a healthy and a safe way over time?
Yeah.
Is this house rated? Do we have a lot of safety concerns in the house? Do we have the ability to install some of those safety features that we're talking about, whether it be
Right.
the guard, the handrails, or whether it be even a security system, or whether it be the countertops or the edges of those countertops super sharp, where if you kind of take a trip and you take your hand out, now you got a
Mm.
nice huge gash, or you hit your head on it or something like
Yeah.
that.
Oh, same thing with the shower. The shower is always where the slip is.
The slip, yeah.
Yeah.
So
If you
do
still
we
got
have
a tub, get that thing out.
yeah, maybe convert that to a walk-in shower. Make
Yeah.
sure that the tile on the floor of the shower, now most of them are have a rough sort of a surface so that
Hmm.
there's grip.
Right.
But some people do DIY their shower. They don't hire a professional, and they put some slippery stuff in there. And it's not just what's on the shower floor, but what's on the bathroom floor, right?
Yeah.
If you're getting out of there and your feet are a little bit wet, it could be a fall hazard as well. So
Yeah.
a lot to consider. I think getting with somebody who kind of understands the needs of you as an individual is always important.
Right. Yeah. So you have to do a lot of discovery when you're with your
A lot of
clients.
discovery, yeah, making sure that all of those points are covered.
Hmm.
And especially if somebody, say, is living here and their kids live somewhere else, so
Right.
maybe they don't have that support for somebody to come and check on them often as they get older, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Which can happen. Um, so as far as the real estate questions, is there any like hidden costs anybody should be aware of? I mean, we obviously covered the point about a hidden cost could be about, adding all those rails and
Mm-hmm.
everything else that we talked about. But is there anything else that, people should really be
Well,
fine-tuned?
I would say a lot of times people these days are wanting to get into HOA communities because of the fact that a lot of the common areas are maintained.
Okay.
Sometimes even the HOA pays for maintenance of each individual's yard. I've seen that a lot with like patio homes and in some single family home communities. But I think the hidden costs there would be, how strict is your HOA? Are they going to hit you with fines for little things that come up?
Oh,
Are they going to hit you with, hey, we changed the approved paint colors and now you have to repaint your house? HOA fees rise over time. So, or is that something you're going to be able to afford if you're going to be on a fixed income, say, with,
hmm,
retirement or, Social Security? You got to factor those in because they don't always adjust those at the same rate as, inflation or costs.
yeah,
And I think the big one that I tell people to keep in mind is, this ability to keep up with the maintenance on your home versus your ability to keep up with the maintenance on your home versus how much you're paying now to kind of offset your loss and ability to do that, right?
right,
So when you're 50, 60 years old, you're probably still able to do a lot of that stuff yourself. As you reach, later 60s, 70s, 80s,
right,
maybe it's not a good idea for you to get up on a ladder and go do some stuff on your roof, right? And so maybe now you have to pay somebody to do that, and so that becomes an issue of deferred maintenance that could add up over time.
right. Yeah. I know we all want to be independent, but sometimes we have to give up some of that
Sure,
stuff, swallow our pride, and
that's right.
yeah. Thank you for sharing on that one. That
Yeah,
was a good one. So do you know any 55 communities kind of nearby that could,
yeah.
potential people could
There's
invest their time in?
there's quite a few. I mean, you have them all over the valley. I know, you and I kind of work more in the Central Phoenix area, and
Right.
there's a few within the Central Phoenix. There's one in Arcadia, I believe, called the Clarendon. That's more of a condo community, 55 and up,
Yeah.
sort of luxury condominium living. If you're going to be going a little bit farther out, let's say you're in Mesa, we have like Leisure World out there, which is single family homes that are in a gated, or I don't know if it's gated actually, but it's a community have all kinds of recreation centers and things like that.
Okay.
There's a bunch on the west side. Vistancia has one. Up on Verado has one. So there's quite a few. I think
Yeah.
there's probably dozens to pick from, and it sort of ranges from whether you want condo living, townhome living, single family home living,
Right.
things like that. So
Yeah. I mean, even on my side of things with assisted living and memory care, I mean, there's hundreds upon hundreds of options, especially in a retirement state. So,
right,
kind of branching off into the 55 and older, which, just be a little bit more independent and have maybe a little bit of resources. I
yeah,
think it's good to bring it out because not everybody wants to full on go into assisted living.
right, yeah.
It's hard.
And a lot of these are great. I've visited them before. They have these resort like pools and
Yeah.
recreation centers with everything that you could imagine.
Like even the cocktails too?
Yeah, maybe
Okay,
maybe you pay
okay.
for the all inclusive option, but they have places for you to go have a drink with your friends, or they have full gym if you're into you know getting after it on the weights or going in the pool or stuff like that.
Yeah.
So maybe hooping it up or playing some racquetball.
Okay. Yeah. Is there anything else that we can talk about in this section before we head on to the next one?
Um, as far as real estate goes, again, I mean, I think real estate should always be an advisory type of thing, no matter whether you're buying your first time home buyer, whether you're trying to trade up to the dream neighborhood, or whether you're trying to downsize. It's all about tailoring it all to the individual. So,
Right. Well, you're
yeah.
definitely an expert in that field,
Well,
so
thank you
I'm
very
glad we're
much.
having you on the show today. So this is the one that we were talking about. The biggest part of this whole talk today is mainly about mistakes to avoid and really about scams.
Yeah,
So you definitely have some good ones that we're going to talk about.
yeah.
So we'll just dive right in. And you want to start us off?
Sure. So I think the mistakes we're talking about, we already brought a couple of them up. So
Right.
there's the, kind of not really understanding what's going to happen with HOA fees or changing HOA boards and the different rules that they bring in. There's the not considering, changes to your mobility or your needs health wise over time. So buying
Right.
in the wrong area. If your primary care doctor or any other doctor you have is 15, 20 miles away, what if you have a challenge and you have to drive yourself there one day, or
Right.
you don't have somebody to take you there. There's buying too much house maybe at a certain time. Obviously, maybe you get to your 50s or even your 60s, and now you're sitting on maybe a little bit of a nest egg, and you're like, hey, I want to buy this really cool place that has this nice
Yeah.
resort backyard and all that kind of stuff. But what happens if at a certain point you're not able to keep up with that, and now you're maybe having to sell that at a time that isn't advantageous for you? Maybe you lose a little bit of your equity there, or perhaps at the time that housing prices have fallen for whatever reason, and
Hmm.
maybe you're underwater on it. Over leveraging, so a lot of people will refinance the house in order to pull some money out to go and have some fun, maybe go on vacation, maybe buy an RV, maybe stuff like
Yeah.
that, buy some toys. And then oops, all of a sudden maybe you need that money for something else in your life, or you need to sell that house because you need to downsize, but you're kind of underwater on your mortgage now because you've
Oh.
refinanced and taken all that equity out.
Yeah.
And so now we're looking at short sales or foreclosures or things of that nature, and that's never any fun. So
No, that's not. That's not at
um,
all. Yeah. Well, I think the most important part is the scams that happen to our seniors.
right,
And yeah, we obviously have the ones with the little cards and stuff like that, but your home can also be a big problem with those people that say, I'll buy your home for cash.
right.
Yeah, do you want to enlighten us a little more on that?
Yeah. So there's, and I don't want to disparage those people completely. I think there's a lot of
Yeah.
them that make an honest living and they're trying to provide a service for people that need what they have. I'm also somebody that will purchase houses, for cash for, somebody who's in that position.
Hmm.
And I try my best to do right by everybody. And hopefully that's the end goal all the time. But there
Right.
are some nefarious actors out there,
Of course.
and so you'll see these ads, or people call you and say, hey, if you're interested in selling your home, and let's just say you're in a position, yeah, I'd like to sell my home for cash for whatever reason.
Okay.
Maybe you're just curious about what you could get. And so they'll come to your home, they'll have the appointment with you, very much like a real estate agent might, but these people are not real estate agents. And they will say, hey, we think that we can give you this much for your home. And so let's say, oh, you agree to that. Cool. I love it. Let's do it. And so they will sort of get your home under contract, and place almost like a lien on your home where, let's say what they're going to do is they're going to say, hey, Galen, I'll give you $400,000 for your house,
Okay.
cash. Okay, great. I agree to that. Sign some paperwork. But what they're going to do is they're going to take that contract that they signed with you, and they're going to try to sell it to somebody else. So they're going to try to sell it to, Joe, down the block for 415,000. So you still get your 400,000. They pay them 415, so they make $15,000 to basically assign that contract to somebody else. So
Wow.
you're kind of like a middleman, right?
Yeah.
Now, there's nothing too wrong with that, especially if there's open communication and you say, hey, you know what? I'm going to do this. I'm going to go sell this to somebody that I know who wants to buy this for a little bit more. I'm going to make a little bit of money on that. Is that okay with you? Sure. Everything's above board. Where the nefarious stuff comes in is either not disclosing that they're going to do that, or what will happen is they will put you under contract at a price that they know is too high on purpose. They'll file what's equivalent to a lien on your house. They'll then cancel the contract on you. So they'll say, hey, you know what? I decided not to buy the house. I did some due diligence on the house. I've decided I can't buy it for 400,000 anymore.
Okay.
So you think, okay, well, that's fine, whatever, we'll go
Right.
our separate ways. But then you go to sell your house in, say, 3 months. And when that house is ready to sell, all of a sudden they tell you, hey, Galen, there's a note on this house, by so and so, for that $400,000. We're going to have to get that removed in order for this sale to go through. You go, well, what are you talking about? I never
Yeah.
sold it to that guy. Well, because of that lien, and he's well within his rights to do so currently. Now they're working on legislation to try to make this illegal. But you essentially would have to then go back to that guy and pay him to remove that lien from your house.
So wait. Stop.
Yeah.
I would have to pay him $400,000.
Not 400. At that
400.
point, he gets to decide what he wants to charge you to remove that lien from your house.
Wow.
So a lot of times they'll say, hey, you know what? Give me $5,000, give me $10,000, and we'll take care of it. Right. So this is a little scam that people, this it's not actually a lien, but it's sort of like a lien for people's purposes. And so originally this was put into place for, real estate agents or other professionals to be able to have a safety net. So where, let's say, as an agent, I might go in and invest a certain amount of money to market the property, take pictures, stage, things like that. So it's a protection for me where if you say run away and you say, hey, never mind, I don't want you to sell my house anymore, and I've already put all this money into it,
Mhm.
well, you should have to pay me back what I was putting into it. You didn't even give me the opportunity to finish out the contract.
Wow.
But it's sort of a loophole now for these guys to be able to go put a bunch of people under contract, cancel those contracts, and then wait for that person to call them one day and say, hey, I need to get this removed.
Mhm.
And then they get to make 10 grand off of every single person that they did this to.
Ugh.
And so they'll put hundreds of properties into this position, and then you
Ugh.
do the math of how much money they end up making from that. So it's a little scam that they're running. Like I said, they're trying to make this illegal, but it's something to watch out for.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, thank you for that. Because at
Yeah.
first I thought you were saying like, I would get the money no matter
Right,
what. But
right.
no. It sounds like I have to pay this guy, the random Joe guy that
Yeah.
is
So
just scamming me.
just got to be careful with those people. And again, there's people in that space that buy houses cash. Again, I'm one of those people that aren't doing this to people.
Correct.
But you just have to watch out. Like they always say, the bad apples ruin the bunch, right? So
No, I mean, yeah. I mean, it's
Yeah.
the same thing in my role too. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? There's people that take advantage of seniors too, and it's horrible that happens, but that's really the world we kind of live in.
Absolutely.
And
There's always
yeah,
somebody looking to take advantage of the system.
yeah,
Yeah.
the system. Yeah, you definitely call it a loophole, man. That loophole needs to be closed
It needs to
quick.
be closed. Yeah, they're working on it, thankfully.
Yeah. So okay. Well, we're getting wrapped up here, so we'll basically wrap up on some resources. Do you have any resources on the real estate side that seniors could be more
Yeah,
well known?
there's obviously you can always reach out to myself, and I can help out with any situation you have. If I have a team and a network of people that specialize in lots of different avenues and arenas, so definitely reach out to me. Otherwise there are lots of people out there who are what they call like senior real estate specialists. There's sort of certifications that you can get for that kind of thing,
Hmm.
whether you want to work with somebody like that. But yeah, there's definitely some resources out there. Google is also a good friend of yours if that's something you need.
Right. Yeah. Do you recommend, maybe you have like a checklist that we can, recommend seniors so that way they just, have all their ducks in a row when it comes to anything
That's a
like this?
great idea. And now that you said that, I should probably put one together. But you know what? Maybe I'll put one together and we can kind of let people know where to get that. And
Yeah.
that way they could have a checklist from A to Z, whether they're trying to sell their home, downsize their home, upgrade their home, and just kind of get their ducks in a row of what needs to happen.
Yeah. And always keep in mind too, everybody's story is different, so it's
Mhm.
not going to be the same with everybody. Everybody's background's different, and whatever situation they're going through. So having a real estate agent that's going to dive deep down and figure out what is the best option for you, I think, is the most important. So,
Yeah,
kind of use that as a key indicator. Like, I don't want to work with this guy. He's not really trying to
sure.
figure out what I want, right? He's just trying to sell me so he can make his commission.
Yeah,
So,
that's an unfortunate thing in our industry. Is a lot of people think of realtors as sort of used car salesmen, right? You're just trying to make a sale, make your money, and you don't really care how you get it done as long as you get the check at the end of the day. And for me, I'm really trying to be the anti-realtor, so to speak. Somebody you can really trust. Somebody I'm not going to try to sell you on selling or buying unless it's something that really is beneficial for you.
right. Yeah. Well, thank you for all the information.
Absolutely.
And just want to highlight too, towards the end of this too. So being a certified senior advisor like I am, I go out and vet these people to make sure that they are good resources for the seniors. So just keep in mind when you're working with a certified senior advisor, whether it's with Oasis or anybody else that's out there, just know that they're out there doing their due diligence when it comes to that to make sure that they're vetted. That's the same thing with all the communities that we go to as well. So um, yeah, I think that's pretty much it, unless you have any last comments before we end it here.
No, just wanted to say thanks so much for speaking with me today and having me on. And Galen, you're doing great work out there.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Keep it up, man.
Yeah. We're going to have the email address to get in contact with him for anything of your
Sure.
questions. Maybe email him about the checklist idea,
Yeah.
kind of, get him going on
Yeah. I'm going to get
that.
that done when I get home.
Okay. So, yeah, just keep in mind this is going to be a continued series. We're going to go as far as we can to get anybody and everybody that deals with seniors. So, thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe.